Hello my YouTube viewers, my name is Ganvious and welcome back to another reaction video. So today I'll be reacting to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition Beginner's Tips. Apparently, there are no spoilers, but this is a video made by That Nintendo Quality. Let's see if it has that Nintendo quality. But yeah, I'm still a noob to the Xenoblade games. I'm only like 10 hours into the first game, and I still don't understand all the mechanics, so hopefully this guide right here will actually help me. So let's check it out.
Without a doubt, Xenoblade Chronicles is one of the more overwhelming RPG games out there. From Monado arts to affinity points and everything in between, I think Ryan here can help articulate how I felt after my first few hours with the game.
What on buying this happened there?
But even though it's a lot to take in at first, I promise
good.
you it's not as complicated as it seems. And once you get the hang of things, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition will be one of the most rewarding video game journeys you'll ever embark on. The purpose
I'm excited.
of this video is to answer some of the biggest questions I had when starting with the game, and to help clarify some of the more intimidating aspects of Xenoblade Chronicles so you can make the most of your time with Shulk and the crew. Of course, this is all spoiler free, so you can get the info you need without the fear of ruining any of this game's amazing story.
Very
All right,
nice.
let's jump right in to tip number 1.
All right.
Tip 1. Talk to everyone.
Okay,
One
I'm
thing
already
to be
doing
sure
that.
to notice
That's good.
is the massive world on offer in Xenoblade Chronicles. The sprawling landscapes are one of the game's main selling points, and naturally, with such large environments, there are a ton of characters inhabiting them. The starting area, Colony 9, is one of the most highly populated in the entire game, and this makes it a great place to learn one of the most important habits you should form during your Xenoblade playthrough: talking to NPCs.
Yep.
Early on in Colony 9,
I'm already doing that,
when
thankfully.
you reach any of the game's later settlements, look on your minimap for these little dots. These indicate named NPCs, or characters that have their own name as opposed to being called Colony 9 resident or something like that. You'll want to try and make sure to talk to all of these named characters at least once. Talking to any named character adds them to your affinity chart. Details about the character will be added to the affinity chart menu, and more importantly, having characters on your affinity chart will unlock certain quests. As you talk to more people, you'll start seeing certain characters with an exclamation mark over their head. This means if you talk to that person, you'll register a new quest in your quest log. My advice: every time you see an exclamation mark, talk to that person and accept the quest.
Okay, I already do that, so it's fine, but he's making it sound like you still have to talk to every NPC? I don't know, but I already make sure I target the ones with an exclamation point, so yeah.
No limit to how many quests you can accept, so adding new quests to your quest log as much as possible is the most efficient way to adventure around the world. And completing quests is the most efficient way to gain money and experience.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. Long story short, talk to every named NPC you find and accept all the quests you can. Even if you don't feel like doing side quests at the moment, you'll most likely complete them automatically as you explore. Tip 2. Explore and run away. Speaking of exploring, you're going to want to explore as much as possible.
Yeah, I do explore, but I don't run away. I stand my ground and I fight like a man. And that's just probably a me thing.
Because of the game's huge living world, exploration is bar none one of the best parts of Xenoblade Chronicles.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The game's many wide open areas are just begging to be explored, and you should certainly follow your instincts here, because each new landmark area that you stumble upon will grant your party extra experience points, which are especially valuable at the beginning of your adventure. As you venture around new areas, you may run into dangerous high-level enemies, which might make you think you're exploring in an area that you shouldn't be. But don't worry, this is totally normal. Don't preoccupy yourself with trying to strategize or fight these strong high-level enemies. Instead, try to sneak around them, and if you accidentally engage one, the run command will be your best friend.
So I'm already doing this.
Run icon, you'll tell your party to leave the enemies alone, and then just run as fast as you can in the other direction. In most cases, the enemies won't be able to keep up, and you can escape the danger. Plus, with the way Xenoblade works, you'll automatically regenerate any health you might have lost in the encounter. The game is designed with exploration in mind, so take advantage of it. Only good can happen. You'll gain valuable experience, and you'll also unlock areas as fast travel points, which will make any backtracking you do much more efficient. Tip 3. Don't sweat the small stuff. Just like how you should run away from enemies that are too strong, you should also not bother with enemies that are too weak. Early on, I was sucked into the idea of fighting any little enemy I came across for the sake of grinding experience.
Yeah, literally me too.
But over time, I learned this was not the right approach. The little enemies you run across will offer you little more than a waste of time. Unless it's for a specific quest, don't waste your playtime worrying about fighting smaller enemies. Exploring and completing side quests is a much more efficient way of gaining EXP than grinding enemy battles, and it's honestly much more fun too. Tip 4. Learn about aggro. As you play more and more of Xenoblade, many of your questions will likely revolve around the battle system. The game does a pretty decent job of explaining how everything works through the tutorial menus, but something that I struggled with at first was understanding and dealing with aggro. The simplest way to understand
I don't know much
aggro
about
is
aggro.
whichever party member the enemy is attacking has aggro. Anytime you battle, you'll want to keep the aggro off less tanky characters like Shulk or Sharla, and keep it on
I kind of already
tanky
do
characters
that.
like Rhine who can deal with it better. Rhine has certain arts that help attract the aggro over to him, so if you're using Rhine as your main, make sure to stay close enough to the enemies and use these arts with aggro effects
the hell
to ensure
is
Shulk
that?
and the other party members don't get wiped out.
What is he
quickly.
fighting?
If you're controlling Shulk, make sure you're using the art called Shadow Eye. Using this art removes enemy aggro from Shulk, so you'll want to use this in battle as much as possible.
I was wondering because it told me, but I didn't fully understand what it was trying to say. Okay, so that makes a bunch more sense to remove the aggro from Shulk, so they don't really care for Shulk. Yeah, okay, I get it. Okay.
Tip 5.
Gotcha.
Positioning is
Oh
key.
my god.
Alongside aggro, one of the other key advanced concepts for battle is the positioning of your characters. One of the more interesting elements of Xenoblade's combat system is that certain arts gain additional effects depending on your character's position relative to the enemy. For example, Shulk has a super useful art called Slit Edge, which lowers an enemy's physical defense if you strike them from the side. In the game's cooldown-based combat system, you'll want to take advantage of any art's special effects as much as you possibly can. If the art you're using has a special effect based on position, make sure you move your characters around the battlefield so you're taking advantage of that. If you see a blue exclamation mark above a certain art, this means it will have an additional effect. Arts you are in the right position for will show this blue mark.
Damn, that's bright.
So circle around the
my
enemy
eyes.
until you see these marks pop up. That's your cue to use those arts. Sometimes you'll find it difficult to move the characters into the optimal position. This is usually because the character you're controlling
What does he have
has the
Shulk
aggro.
and
If
Rhine
this is
just
happening,
completely
try to use aggro reducing arts like Shulk
shirtless
Shadow
and
Eye, if any are
pantless?
available, or you can move away from the enemy a bit so your main character stops auto attacking. Attacking the enemy will increase aggro levels for that particular character. So if that character's not auto attacking, over time the aggro will move to another party member. The aggro shift will allow your main character to get into the right position so you can utilize your arts most effectively. Tip 6. When in doubt, Shulk it out.
Shulk
is
it
one
out.
of the best characters to use to help you understand aggro and positioning in
100%,
battle. Using Shulk is highly effective in nearly every battle.
I would
He has
always
a
do
simple
Shulk.
combo of arts that will become your bread and butter if you end up maining him. If you are struggling with deciding which characters to use, my advice is just pick Shulk. Not only will you get to be the protagonist in the story, but you'll always be in the middle of the action in battle. If you are to learn one thing about this game's combat system, learn Shulk's main combo. This will be enough to carry you through pretty much the entire game. When controlling Shulk, you'll want to first use Slit Edge facing the side of the enemy to lower physical defense. Then, while you're still facing the side of it, quickly use Air Slash to inflict break on the enemy. Once this is done, use Shadow Eye to power up Shulk's physical attacks, and then move behind the enemy to inflict big damage with
that's
Backslash.
okay,
If you decide to play as mostly Shulk,
Because another thing, you guys are telling me that I should probably reorganize my arts, and that's the perfect order. I gotta remember that order. So yeah, okay, I gotcha. That's
you'll
genius.
quickly grow comfortable with this strategy, and it will pretty much become autopilot for you over time. You can even reorder your arts in the arts menu to make it as convenient as possible to select combos during battle. For example, in my setup here, I have Slit Edge and Air Slash lined up near the middle for easy access, with Shadow Eye and Backslash to follow on the left here, giving me an easy straight line of arts to follow. Tip 7. the level penalty. For my last tip, I want to address what I feel is a big hurdle for many first-time Xenoblade players, getting stuck on some of the game's more difficult fights. There's a common snag in the battle system that can make certain encounters very difficult for new players, and not fully understanding these is something that I believe causes many new players to lose interest and drop off the game. It's the concept of enemy danger levels. Depending on danger level, the enemy's target window will be a different color. Red being the most dangerous, and blue and black being the least. Don't worry so much about the specifics of what the colors mean, but the number one thing that's important to know here is about the level penalty. The bigger the difference between the enemy's level and the party's level, the harder it will be to land good hits on the enemy, which can be a killer in certain fights, making them nearly unwinnable,
level
especially
76?
for beginner players.
You gotta just be smart about
make sure
it.
your party isn't more than 2 levels below the highest level enemy. If your party members are 3 levels or more lower than your target, you'll be facing a pretty serious penalty that makes the fight much harder. Your damage output and resistance is decreased, and the enemy's evasion will increase. You'll gain a lot of experience if you still manage to win a battle despite the penalties, which is great for grinding, but trust me, for the most part, it's really not worth it, especially for new players. If you're stuck on a certain battle, check the enemy's level relative to your party. If you're more than 2 levels lower, it might be a good idea to do some side quests until you level up enough to make it a fair fight. This might be bad news for those that don't enjoy grinding, but trust me, it's well worth doing it as it beats repeatedly failing in a fight your party is simply not equipped to win. And if grinding's not your thing, the Definitive Edition on Switch allows you to lower the difficulty level down to casual mode, so you can get through most fights with ease, and you can continue to enjoy this game's great story.
I'm not doing that.
And there you have it, my top tips for beginners to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I hope they help you feel much more confident on your adventure.
I feel much more confident. I pretty much been doing everything already that he's discussed here. The one thing I need to change is the order of the arts. Once I do that, and once I do the combo strategy, I feel like I have this under control. So yeah, but overall, I'm very happy I watched this video. I really enjoyed it. It was very well made, and this is perfect, literally perfect for anybody who's thinking about getting into Xenoblade. So yeah, I really enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and Xenoblade Chronicles Part 7 will be out very soon. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Bye guys. See you guys soon.